For over 60 years, the official story just didn't add up. We were told that 9 experienced Soviet hikers died from a compelling natural force on a desolate mountain in 1959. But that bland, bureaucratic explanation never came close to explaining the horrifying details. It didn't explain the clothing that tested positive for radiation. It didn't explain the bone-crushing internal injuries with almost no external wounds. And it definitely didn't explain why their tent was deliberately slashed open from the inside. The Soviet government sealed the case files, burying the truth under layers of Cold War secrecy. Well, that secrecy is finally starting to crack. Thanks to modern computer simulations and a fresh look at the evidence, a terrifyingly plausible explanation for what happened on that frozen mountain has emerged. This is the story of the cover-up, the decades of wild speculation, and the scientific breakthrough that may finally solve the unspeakable terror that befell the Dyatlov group. In late January 1959, 10 young, athletic students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out on what should have been the adventure of a lifetime. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a skilled and respected outdoorsman. This was no weekend camping trip. They were aiming for a Category 3 certification, the highest in the Soviet Union, a brutal 300-kilometer trek through the northern Ural Mountains. Their own photos and diaries, found later, paint a picture of a confident, happy group, full of camaraderie even as they faced down brutal, freezing conditions. They were documenting their journey, capturing moments of struggle and laughter. Their names would soon be etched into history for all the wrong reasons. Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Rustam Slobodin, Georgy Krivonischenko, Yuri Doroshenko, Nikolai Thibobrignols, and the oldest, 38-year-old Semyon Zolotaryov, a mysterious World War II veteran who joined at the last minute. On January 28, one member, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back because of severe joint pain. It was a twist of fate that saved his life but would haunt him for the rest of it. He said goodbye to his 9 friends, never imagining he'd be the last person to see them alive. The remaining 9 pushed on. Their journals noted the weather getting worse and the deep snow slowing them down. On February 1st, they began their ascent of Kholat Syakhl, a mountain whose name in the local Monsi language ominously translates to Dead Mountain. It was here, on an exposed, windswept slope, they decided to make their final camp. A photo taken that evening shows them calmly cutting into the snow to pitch their tent, getting ready for another freezing night. It would be their last. Dyatlov was supposed to send a telegram by February 12th. When it didn't arrive, nobody panicked right away. Delays were common on trips like this. But as the days stretched on, worry began to creep in. On February 20th, a search party was finally sent out. What they discovered would become one of the most chilling mysteries of the 20th century. On February 26, 1959, the search party spotted the group's tent, partially collapsed and buried in snow on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. The silence was absolute. As they got closer, they realized something was deeply wrong. The tent hadn't just collapsed, it had been violently damaged. Forensics later confirmed it was sliced open with a knife, but not from the outside by an attacker. It was cut from the inside. Inside the tent, all the group's gear, warm clothes, boots, supplies, was left behind almost neatly arranged. It was obvious the hikers had fled in a blind panic, rushing out into a lethal minus 30 degrees Celsius minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit night with almost nothing to protect them. Why would 9 expert mountaineers, who knew that being without proper gear was a death sentence, abandon their only shelter? A set of footprints led away from the tent, downhill toward the woods about a mile away. There were 8 or 9 sets of prints, some from bare feet, some with only socks, others with just a single boot. The pattern of the prints showed they walked away from the tent in an orderly fashion before breaking into a frantic run, but there was no sign of a struggle or anyone else being there. Following the trail, the searchers made their first grim discovery. Under a massive cedar tree at the edge of the forest, they found the remains of a small fire. Next to it lay 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonischenko. They were stripped down to their underwear. Their hands were scraped and bloody, and the branches on the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting one of them had desperately tried to climb it, maybe to see the tent, or maybe to escape something on the ground. The official cause of death was simple: hypothermia. But that didn't answer the terrifying question: what were they running from? The horror under the cedar tree was only the beginning. As the search party moved from the woods back toward the tent, they found 3 more bodies. It looked like they had been trying to get back to their abandoned shelter. First was a leader, Igor Dyatlov, lying on his back, clutching a small branch. A short distance away lay Zinaida Komogorova, frozen as if she'd been crawling. Then Rustam Slobodin, who had a small, non-lethal fracture in his skull. Just like the first 2, the medical examiner concluded all 3 had died of hypothermia. 4 to agonizing months. The fate of the last 4 hikers was a mystery. Then, on May 4th, as the spring thaw began, the final, most disturbing discovery was made. Buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine not far from the cedar tree, they found the last 4 bodies. And this is where the case went from tragic to truly bizarre. These hikers hadn't just frozen. Nicholas the Bobrignol's had suffered a catastrophic skull fracture. Semyon Zolotaryov and Lyudmila Dubinina had injuries so severe the lead medical examiner said they were equal to the force of a car crash, multiple, symmetrical chest fractures, as if from an immense crushing pressure. But mysteriously, there were no matching external injuries. No significant bruising, no cuts on the skin to explain what could have caused such devastating internal damage. And then there was a final, ghastly detail. Lyudmila Dubinina was found missing her tongue and eyes. The official report later claimed this was due to natural decomposition and scavenging animals in the running water of the ravine. But for many, the explanation has always felt too simple for such a horrific scene. To add another layer of strangeness, some of the clothing found in the ravine tested positive for low levels of beta radiation. Was this from their work? Both Krivonishenko and Kolevatov had worked with radioactive materials. Or was it from something they encountered on the mountain? Faced with these inexplicable facts, the Soviet investigation did the only thing it could. It shut the case down. In late May 1959, just 3 months after the tent was found, the official investigation was abruptly closed. The final report was a masterclass in saying nothing at all. Lead investigator Lev Ivanov concluded the hikers died from a compelling natural force which they were unable to overcome. This vague answer was unclassified. The files were locked away, and the area around Dyatlov Pass was sealed off for 3 years. This suppression is exactly what fueled over half a century of speculation. What on earth is a compelling natural force? It didn't explain the crushing injuries, the missing tongue, the slashed tent, or the radiation. It felt less like a conclusion, and more like an order to stop asking questions. Why would the powerful Soviet state go to such lengths to cover up what it claimed was just a hiking accident? This official secrecy created a vacuum, and a torrent of theories rushed in to fill it. Whispers of a military cover-up were everywhere. Had the hikers stumbled upon a secret weapons test? Others pointed to more paranormal events. People in nearby towns, and even some in the search party, had reported seeing strange glowing spheres or fireballs in the sky around the time of the incident. This led to wild theories about UFOs and aliens. And of course, there was local folklore about the Yeti. For decades, the lack of a rational, official explanation left the door wide open for these terrifying possibilities, turning the Dyatlov Pass incident into a modern legend. For 60 years, the mystery festered as investigators, both amateur and professional, tried to find a single theory that fit all the bizarre pieces of the puzzle. The most popular ideas revolved around a military cover-up, strange natural phenomena, and the paranormal. The military angle always seemed the most plausible. This was the peak of the Cold War, and the Soviet Union was notorious for secret weapons programs. The idea of a failed rocket launch gained a lot of traction, with people pointing to rumored missile tests. This could explain the fireballs in the sky, and maybe even the radiation. But a huge hole remained. No rocket debris was ever found near the site. Another popular theory involved something called infrasound, a low-frequency sound created by wind hitting the mountain's topography that can cause intense, irrational panic. It's an intriguing idea that might explain why they fled the tent, but it does nothing to account for the catastrophic physical injuries. It explains a fear, but not the crushed ribs. And what about the avalanche? From the very beginning, this was the most logical explanation, but it was dismissed. Rescuers in 1959 saw no obvious signs of a major snowslide, and the slope seemed too gentle for a deadly avalanche. For decades, it felt like the mystery was doomed to be a collection of contradictory facts and dead-end theories. But then, science found a way forward. The avalanche theory was the official story nobody really believed. But in 2019, the Russian Prosecutor General's office reopened the case, determined to apply modern science to the 60-year-old mystery. Their conclusion, announced in 2020, was once again an avalanche. But this time, they had a much more specific and scientifically sound explanation. It wasn't a massive Hollywood-style event, but something smaller and sneakier, a slab avalanche. This theory was then put to the ultimate test by scientists at two prestigious Swiss universities, EPFL and ETH Zurich, using advanced computer modeling, including animation tech first developed for the movie Frozen to realistically simulate snow. They reconstructed the conditions on that fatal night. Their groundbreaking study, published in 2021, provided the most complete explanation to date. Here's what they believe happened. The hikers cut into the snowpack to create a level area for their tent. Unknowingly, this created a weak point in the snow above them. Throughout the night, fierce katabatic winds, dense, heavy air flowing downhill, piled more and more snow onto that weak spot. At some point, a crack formed, and a small slab of heavy snow, about 5 meters wide, roughly the size of an SUV, slid down onto the tent. This wasn't a huge slide that would leave obvious debris, which is why the original searchers missed it. Instead, it was a sudden, violent punch. This one event brilliantly explains the most baffling injuries. The models showed that a block of heavy snow hitting someone lying down could generate the exact kind of severe chest and skull fractures seen on Dubinina, Zolotaryov, and Thibaut Brignoles, all without leaving major external wounds. The hikers who weren't directly hit were jolted awake in pitch-black darkness, the weight of snow pressing down, their friends screaming in pain. Believing a much bigger avalanche was about to bury them alive, their only thought was to escape. With the entrance blocked, they slashed their way out of the tent. Once outside in the lethal cold, some already severely injured, they retreated to the tree line, a standard survival procedure. The hypothermia and their eventual tragic deaths all logically follow from that single, terrifying moment. More recent expeditions to the area have even observed similar small slab avalanches, proving the terrain is more prone to them than previously thought. The slab avalanche theory is scientifically elegant and backed by advanced modeling. For many, this has closed the book on the Dyatlov Pass incident. But for others, a few nagging questions keep a more sinister theory alive, a military rocket test gone horribly wrong. This theory suggests the hikers were enveloped by a toxic cloud of nitric acid from a failed missile launch. Proponents point to details the avalanche theory struggles with. First, those witness accounts of glowing spheres or fireballs in the sky match the profile of a rocket launch or missile burning up on re-entry. And the state secrecy makes a lot more sense in the context of a failed weapons test and a natural disaster. A cloud of nitric acid fog would cause difficulty breathing, intense burning on exposed skin, and temporary blindness, symptoms that would absolutely trigger a panic flight from the tent. It could explain the strange orange-brown tan reported on some of the bodies and why they stripped off their clothes. Most chillingly, it offers a gruesome explanation for Lyudmila Dubinina's missing tongue. Perhaps a convulsive reaction to inhaling corrosive gas, or the tissue simply dissolving from the chemicals. While there's no smoking gun like missile debris, the circumstantial evidence is compelling for those who believe the avalanche theory is just a little too neat. So, where do you land? We have the elegant, scientific slab avalanche theory and the terrifying, conspiratorial rocket fuel disaster. Does the science of the avalanche explain everything to your satisfaction? Or do the lingering questions about a possible military cover-up still leave you wondering? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Science has given us a powerful, persuasive answer to the Dyatlov Pass mystery. The slab avalanche theory, backed by sophisticated modeling, explains the key parts of the tragedy: the initial injuries, the desperate escape, and the deaths from hypothermia. It replaces a vague, compelling natural force with a clear, logical, and terrifying chain of events. And yet, shadows remain. The avalanche theory, for all its power, doesn't perfectly account for every strange detail. The low-level radiation is often dismissed as a coincidence from the hikers' day jobs. And then there's a gruesome question of Lyudmila Dubinina's missing tongue and eyes, which, while officially blamed on scavengers, remains a detail so horrific it keeps darker theories alive. Perhaps the ultimate truth is a combination of events. Or perhaps, as the lead scientist behind the Avalanche study noted, the only people who could ever truly confirm what happened were the 9 members of the Dyatlov group themselves. We now know what likely killed them, but we may never know the precise terror they experienced in their final moments. Science has likely solved the how, but the why that night, why that spot, remains hauntingly elusive. The complete story, in all its terrifying detail, died with them on the frozen slopes of the Dead Mountain. If you are wondering whether this is a myth or reality, check out the comments section now.